All right, I record this. Thank you. Yes, I can record this and I'll upload it. Now I need to share my screen again. All right. Can you guys see the screen? Okay. All right. Boy, something's really. Ay, ay, ay. Massing. I'll just open up massing. Let's see what this is. No, I think this is junk. This isn't going to be helpful at all. DTLV massing, maybe. I can't remember which file's which. I'm so bad about that. Oh, yeah, here it is, right? All right. So let's see a few things. First of all, I'm getting rid of any curves I might have in this, like period, like no curves whatsoever. I'm trying to figure out why I have these frames around here. I don't know if it's has something to do with my camera settings or what, but anyway. Windows is being really laggy on me. And again, I had to reshare my screen, so now my chat is gone. So someone else is chatting at me. Okay, yeah, no problem. All right, chat's up in this window. You would think Zoom would get better at the interface here over time. All right. So I'm with you. For some reason, man, my Windows here lately has just been acting really goofy. I suspect it's just, some sort of parallel setting for in the Mac side. Not treating my graphics card very nicely, or not allocating enough virtual memory to Windows or something. But here I have it, right? This is perspective, so I'll go ahead and change this to Axon. Let's see what, that's probably not a good vantage point considering half of the site is blocked. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Sure, why not? I'll pick this one. I don't know which way this is looking, but I'll pick this one. All right, so I'm going to make sure I turn a lot of things off here. One of the things I'm going to turn off, roads and sort of ground blocks. I don't need those right now. I've made a drape around the part of the site that I actually want to also measure out of the ground. I've made a drape around the massing. I can turn that massing off. It's right here, right? Turn that off. Really just want this. And I want the occluding geometry, so I wouldn't need the tall neighbors around to be on. Let me go ahead and save this really quickly, I guess. But anything else, I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to say select all curves. There's no objects added. I must have those things turned off. If I think this is going to be really terrible, I could always save this out as its own file in case I think it's going to crash. And I don't want to corrupt a potential file that has all my geometry in it, right? The only record of the file of all my work that I've been doing. So, but anyway, let's see. Go ahead and open up Gas. How about Grass? There we go. Grasshopper. Boy, Grasshopper would be a completely new organism. All right. We just wait for that to open. Don't be like me and have so many plugins loaded that it takes like literally 30 seconds for Grasshopper to open. But so I'll move this over for the time being. And I'm going to open, let's see here. I'll do direct radiation. Now, here's the real test. Did I turn everything to false last time I saved this file? All right, it's asking me for a weather file. Right. So I know I need to go to my Las Vegas McCarran EPW or whatever. All right, it'll be closed. So this is a calculator. It's calculating. All right, so I have, oh gosh, so it's doing all kinds of stuff. Everything's set to true to get the cumulative sky matrix. Okay, so it's calculating the sky matrix based off of the time of the years that I gave it down here. So you'll see that in a minute. This looks like it's toggled false, so hopefully it's not trying to actually make the false color map, but we'll see. Grid size is set to 2. That's really unfortunate. Let's see. It just changed my vantage point again. That's also unfortunate. Where'd Grasshopper go? All right. All right, so it has a cumulative sky matrix. So it's not running the actual analysis yet, but it is doing the analysis based off of the occluding geometry. All right, so a couple of things I'm going to do. I'm going to set this back to false where it should have been when we started. So we have the weather file loaded. That's set to true. I am going to change the occluding geometry just in case. Select the test ground surface, select the context building masses. I'm going to go ahead and right click and say clear values. And I'm going to right click and say set multiple BREPs, and I'll just select everything all at once, including this geometry, right? If it's going to self-shade in certain places, I want to know that. So it's going to be part of occluding geometry as well. All right. I'll go ahead and turn the preview of that stuff off now. Now I'll do the same thing here. Select the test. I'm going to go ahead and clear values. And then I'll go ahead and say set one BREP and select this. I suspect everybody got this far. It's not, this isn't rocket science, is it? Go ahead and save this right now while I'm thinking about it and save the Rhino file again really quickly. All right. I don't think it'll actually have to redo anything here, except I'm going to change it. Well, I'll go ahead and set this to true. I don't think it needs to redo anything. So it's going to reopen matrix, the radiance, and it's going to recalculate go through all the data and put together the sky matrix here. Right. It's this widget right here that my blue cursor is over. That's where we sort of parse and take that cumulative sky matrix and then pull out certain portions of it based off of the time of year that we want, right? So we'll set that next. The time of the year that we want to sample. Where's Grasshopper? Come on, Grasshopper. And then we'll also take a look at the grid size and units and things like that. And then we'll toggle this to true once we have those things set. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this. I'm going to do the summer solstice just for fun. Okay. So month I'm going to set to 6, which is June. Day 21st. Hour 1. And then I'm going to set this month again to 6. And the day to 21st. And the hour to 24. All right, so we're going to sample one day, the summer solstice. Yay. All right. I can tell you guys are awesome and care so much. Distance from base, I've moved that up just slightly. So it's not at 0, but it's at 0.25. So just slightly offset so we can see things a little better. North, I need to adjust north. You would do this according to the way you do the sun diagram as well. I think some of you figured out that it was like -20, something like that. Help me out here. Antonio, did you say you figured that out, or was it Nick, or who said that?
27.7.
Is it -27.7 or positive 27.7?
I think it was negative for this one.
So if I just subtract 27.7 from 360, then I can enter that number in, right? That sound about right?
It did work for me, so sure.
It did or didn't?
It did not.
Oh, okay, 2, 3. So I'll enter in 332. The way to test this out ahead of time is we could do the sun one, and it actually shows you the direction where north is, right? The sun position. Then we could use the exact same thing there as well. We can always come back to that later. For the grid size, I'm going to up this up dramatically. I'm going to up this to 20. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Let's talk about this for a moment. Grid size means that it's going to basically take the surface and then superimpose a grid on it, right? So the size of the units of the grid, the cells. And so, you know, the number is sort of proportional. The grid size is sort of inversely proportional to how many rays will be populated across the surface, right? So the larger the number, the fewer the rays. The smaller the number, the smaller the grid, so the more nodes on the grid, so the more rays that it has to calculate through, okay? All right, so I think anyway. So let's talk about that grid size, which I assume it's looking at units. I assumed it was feet because I think my units in Rhino are set to feet, yeah. So I'm gonna up this up to something much larger like 20 for right now. And hopefully that what that does is we'll start to see quite literally the sort of grid on this. All right, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and try to run this one time. Hit true. Double click that true false toggle, the Boolean. All right, so that took substantially less time. It's already done. And go ahead and hit false. Oh wait, no, actually I want to take the radiation mesh. I'll just take this whole thing and bake it and put it on the color map analysis really quickly layer. Now I can toggle that false. Turn that off for the time being. I can turn the draped mass off. All right. Now you can see, right, that's probably not granular enough, right? So 20 by 20 foot grid, ugh, that doesn't look so good, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and undo the bake here. Oh, oops, hold on, I hit command. There we go. See, it undid the Grasshopper bake when I undo in Rhino after baking. Go ahead and open up Grasshopper again. All right, I've set this toggle back to false, so it's not calculating anything. I'm going to go ahead and turn the grid size down to 10. Now what happens here? The grid's going to get smaller in the X and the Y. So I'm going to quadruple the amount of information it's going to calculate. So I have to be careful when I do this, right? So maybe 2 as a grid size was too small, but 20 was too large. So maybe I'll half that in 10 and see what that looks like. Go ahead and save. And I'll hit true or toggle that. It's going to take a minute to calculate, I suppose. See if it takes 4 times the amount of time. I don't know. Okay, and I'll go ahead and bake that. Color map analysis. And I'll toggle that back off so it's not trying to calculate anything in case I move something by accident. Turn that drape mass off. That's getting a little better, right? Now, personally, for my taste, I would want something even finer grain. I'm going to go ahead and Control Z to undo the bake. Oh, and do it again. Okay, there we go. I'm going to go down to 5 for me, right? Maybe 10 is the sweet spot for your processor, depending on the complexity of your building. But I'm just going to do 5. Okay. So once I do this, I'm going to bake the results in, and then I'll also do the exact same thing for the sun position, and I'll show you what I'm baking out there, and I'll superimpose those things together. Okay, and sort of go through that workflow really quickly. So I'll go ahead and I can't bake it because I have to run it first. Let's run the simulation. All right, this one might take a little longer. I think I had it at 2 or 2.5 before. So if you think about that, each time you step in half, you're quadrupling the amount of information. And so when you again, these things sort of grow exponentially. Nick, I see your comment. I have my unit set to feet, and it looked like, I think for the most part, once I upped that grid size, it looked like it was doing in 20 feet, like let's say, for instance, 20-foot increments. So I'm thinking it's safe. I'm thinking it's actually using the units that you have in Rhino. Oh no, I didn't bake it before. Oh, I turned it to false and didn't bake it. So here, I have to let it recalculate one more time here. Gosh, rookie mistake. Man, that's so lame. Come on, Josh. All right. 332, I better write that down. That was the angle I used. And from June 21st throughout the summer solstice, the 24 hours of summer solstice. All right, I'm gonna select this last widget here, right click, hit bake it on the layer that I already made for it. Toggle this back to false, save it while everything's set to false. Maybe I'll set this to false as well and save it again. Go ahead and close Grasshopper. Let's look at this drape mass. All right, so if I look at this, I can immediately start to see some huge trouble areas, right? The top, of course, the roofs are going to receive a lot of solar radiation. Not a huge surprise. Anything that's horizontal is going to hit it if it's not in immediate shadow. The vertical edges, those are getting less, and I have a feeling that's a function of the sun being really high up, okay, in the sky. you can see where, sometimes it's getting more or less. Okay. So, unless I get really dark blue, I'm going to treat yellow, orange, and red as areas that I really need to work on shade. Okay. Okay. This is in axon mode at the moment. There's parts of this that I don't necessarily need, although I might keep it on here since it's on its own layer. I'm going to make another set of layers here in Rhino. I'm going to call this one Sunpath. Underneath that, I might make some more layers once I start to look and see what I need to bake in. I'm going to reopen Grasshopper. I'm going to go ahead and close this direct radiation Grasshopper file. So this seems to be working for me. Again, what I did is I set that grid size up much higher. I made sure I turned off everything that I don't need, except for the poly surfaces that I either want to measure and the poly surfaces that I want to actually cast shadows. That's it. All right. So yeah, so in that case, you need to set your grid up way higher, Nick. Right? If you're or yeah, something like that. So that could be a units thing. In which case, if it was really trying to like put a massive grid on this thing with millions of nodes to measure, that could be a huge problem for your processor. I suspect that could be the Nick. Now let me go through this workflow again, and then I can entertain questions and more troubleshooting one-on-one if need be. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Sunpath one as well. Maybe if I can find it. Where is it? Probably down here somewhere. That's weird. Am I just missing this? Am I blind? What in the world? Should have been right next to direct radiation, right? Somewhere in my downloads, probably. No? Oh, it's on the Mac side. That's why. Curtain wall reveals. Sunpath. All right. Try to act a little smarter. I guess. I don't know. That's weird. Okay, again, it's going to know my latitude and all the solar geometry based off of the weather file I give it. So I'll go ahead and give it weather file. Okay. Oh, maybe it wants an EPW. I don't know why it's finding that. EPW. There we go. Sorry. All right. That's set to true. So it opened up the weather file, got the location. True north. Let's see what happens when I put in 332. Okay, so north is that way a little bit. All right. All right. So yeah, I was seeing part of the southeast side of the building when I was doing the northwest isometric. That makes sense because northwest will be up towards the top. Wait, what? Oh, never mind.
For this one, it was
0.
not minus 360. It was just 27.
Oh, really? All right. That's super. Why is everything backwards too? It's like I'm looking at it upside down or something. Oh, no, I'm just an idiot. Okay. All right. Here, set view. Let me go back to make sure it's set the same view. All right. At any rate, we can see this is actually not an ideal view for this. Maybe I switch it to the other direction. All right. Let's see here. So maybe we look at it from the southwest. That's better looking. I might have to, oh, okay. Well, it doesn't matter. I guess later on I can do this. All right. Regardless, I just want to sort of see, the solar geometry, right? Again, much in the same way, I'm gonna pick the same dates. If I'm gonna take the solar analysis, this radiation analysis, and then also talk about where the sun is in the sky throughout that day, I'm gonna pick the same day, right? So in this case, I'm gonna say, hour, hold on, let's say day, 21st, okay, month, turn this to June, not March, there we go. So it's gonna run along that top path, top arc. Scale of sun and sun paths, okay. And then I also need to select the geometries that I'm measuring. So I say set multiple geometries. Now select the context here. Let's see, my cityscape. There we are. And I'll find a center. Basically, I'll center this thing up over my city. I could do that just by simply saying set one geometry, and just selecting my building. There we go. Now it's centered perfectly. All right. All right, I have my weather file. I have that, centered it up. I can change the sun path scale, right? So let's say I need it to actually be smaller, right? I can do that. That looks about right. The sun looks a little large to me. Maybe I'll shrink that down. Actually, maybe just a little bigger. Let's see what comes out of this. Oh, here's actually where I can change that. Here's the radius of the sun that I actually going to bake out. There we go. All right. So there's a couple of things here. This is the Sunpaths curves. So if I click on this, you can see that that's what's selected, right? I can always bake that in. So let's say Sunpath. All right, so I'll bake that into the Sunpath layer. I'll say bake and select Sunpath. Bake that in. I can also look at the ray of the sun. So it basically draws a center point down to the center point of the where I centered my the compass, right? And same with the sphere, right? The sphere is going to in the ray is going to change based off of the time of day that I've set, right? So if you can see that, I'll select both of these. You can see that both the sphere and the ray is green. If I adjust the time, the hour, obviously those are going to move accordingly, right? So let's say I go with 6. 5 seems a bit extreme. But let's say I do 6, and I can bake that in. 6, 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, and then maybe even 8 p.m. in winter, or I mean in summertime. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. Call this suns and rays. Right. All right. So let's see. At 8 a.m., I'm going to go ahead and bake. Where is it? Oh, here, I'll move this over so I can see it a little better. I'll go ahead and bake this ray on the suns and rays layer, as well as the sphere. I'm just, again, I'm just going to do that. I'll go ahead and, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to move these over. Right, so I don't have to keep adjusting my screen. And I'll change the hour, and I'll go to 8 a.m. All right, now I have a new ray and sun to bake in. Bake suns and rays. Same with the ray. Right, so I'm going to have 2-hour increments where I'm showing the path of the sun, or the sun's path in 2-hour increments across the summer solstice. Right, go ahead and change this to 10. Do the exact same thing really quickly. Maybe if I just select these two together and say solution, bake selected, I'll bake all of those at once. It baked them on the active layer, which is the wrong layer. So I'll go ahead and make suns and rays the active layer. Do that one more time. Solution, bake selected. There we go. Keep those selected, and I'll just change this. 12. Select these. Bake selected. 14, 2 p.m. military time. Bake selected. 4 o'clock. All right. 6 o'clock. 1800 hours. Yeah, maybe I'll even do an 8 p.m. Maybe not. Maybe 8 p.m. is below the horizon. All right, so I guess I stop at 6. All right, whatever. Right. Now I have the makings of, let's say, summer solstice sun diagram, right? There's a couple of things I might do here. Let's turn on that sun path. Let's turn some of this other stuff off for the time being. All right, let's clean this up. Maybe I don't need to see all of these, but maybe just the summer solstice path, since this diagram is all just about the summer solstice, June 21st. So I'll go ahead and delete all this crap. Well, whatever. That's one way of putting it, I suppose. Pardon my French. Sun's rays, right? Color map analysis. And roads, blocks, buildings, right? Maybe I want the compass that comes in here. You see the round thing. You can always bake that in. That's another output from that last widget. But essentially, to get this color map out, I'm going to have to render this. Okay. At the same time, I can also do a make 2D. So at this point, I'm going to always pick, let's say, the southeast, it looks like, isometric for me. There we go. I really don't want this stuff. That's lame. I might not even need this scale. I mean, look, honestly, what I would do is I would just, red is the most, blue is the least, right? The numbers can be debated, right? Depending on how, how rigorous we were with the geometry that we're measuring and how granular we are, right? But in this case, what we know is that the blue is receiving relatively little solar radiation. The red, orange, and yellow is receiving a lot, right? So you can begin to sort of understand, maybe even the data isn't quite right. Red is maybe double the orange, right? Based off of that scale that we just deleted. Okay. This is something that I would put in a caption later, not something I would render as a surface in my model here. That would be ridiculous. Okay, and so maybe really quickly, let's see what this looks like in just a sort of quick rendered view here. Yeah, it looks about right. This is just my viewport setting. For some reason, it's rendering curves. I could keep that, or I could get rid of it and do a make 2D, right? I probably want some line work around this, so I'm going to do a make 2D anyway. So at this point, I'm going to turn off the render curves. Well, it says it's rendered. Render curves is off. How strange. Well, for the sake of the demonstration, I'm gonna go ahead and capture this. I hit OK. Tell me where to save. This makes no sense to me. How about desktop? All right, there we go. I'll call that save. Let's see, what else? Yes. Go ahead and turn this to shaded. I'm going to say make 2D. Select all of this. Tangent edges, no. No, maybe yes. Scene silhouette, definitely. Viewport rectangle, absolutely. I'm gonna hit OK. Let's see what I get out of this. So from here, I'm just compositing a line drawing that I'm using Make 2D to create, and rendering that'll have some sort of soft clay model rendering, soft shadows. Let me turn on the Make 2D layers. You can see, okay, Let me select last. So select whatever is last created. I'll move that away here. All right. And that's ready to export as an AI file. Right, as line work with a scene silhouette around. And also, the exact same viewport outline as the rendering. So I can export selected, save it as a real Illustrator file, call this Axon test, solar June 21st, because I would do this for winter and also for the equinox. Snapshot of current view, sure, I don't care, whatever. Let's try to get Illustrator going here. Fire up Illustrator while this is working. Go ahead and save this. Remarkably, my computer didn't crash. You can see the sun's pretty up high in the sky around noon. So yeah, I can see why the sides and some of the undercuts weren't getting so much sun. That makes sense. Let me go ahead and close this and try to get Windows to calm down. I'm recording this. Yeah, Andrea talked about first draft. Yeah. Do you have a little bit of time in case we need to go a little over 4 to talk, or no?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, good. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just trying to get all these things working at once. So many things, so little time. You know how it goes. It's the way, name of the game for architecture, isn't it? Junk. Okay. Is Illustrator open? Okay, good. Here, this is what matters. Let's open up that Illustrator file again. Dun, dun, dun. Desktop. Axon test solar, June 21st. Oh, there we go. Layers is what I'm most interested in here. Let's see, how big is this? All right, so a couple of things here. I'm always going to do this. Windows, come on now. All right, well, while Windows decides whether it wants to work or not, over here in Macworld, I think we're a little better off. At least I am. All right, document setup, edit artboards. This is 11 by 11. I'll keep it that, I don't care. 11 by 17, right? I think that's what we said. Oh, seriously? Oh, I mistyped. Yeah, all right. Select this, transform, width, height. Let's go with width 17. What did it do? Okay, clearly I mistyped something there. All right, let's see if I can work my keyboard. I always blame my laptop, but maybe it's just me. Like my hands are just stupid. I don't know. 17, right? I hit 17, right? Okay. I mean, I'm not going crazy, I hope. Let's see if we can send this to 0 and 0 and see where we're at there. All right. Now that'll work, I guess, for now. Let's see, Illustrator. So I'll go ahead and place the JPEG as well. Not before I make a new layer and move it down to the very bottom. I'll call this background render or something like that. I'll set that to be the active layer. I'll lock these other layers for the time being, so I don't accidentally move them or resize them or lose something. And hit place. View capture, there we go. Now I can size this exactly the same way, width 17 inches. Move this over to 0, 0. All right, now I can unlock all these things. Let's move all of this down, centered up. All right, there we go, ish, there we are. I can turn off that viewport rectangle. I can lock this layer. Now I can start to select things. Tangents and curves, is there anything on the tangents layer? Just a little bit. I'm gonna turn that off entirely. Let's look at the visible curves. You know, here I can go down to, you know, 0.5 line weight, you know, maybe turn everything to black lines. You know, I can again also go to, let's see here, scene silhouette, double check that. Make that thicker. 1.5 seems a little extreme, but maybe 1. Turn those to black lines. Looks like the scene silhouette's missing a couple of things, so I might have to redraw a couple of straight lines in there. It's always annoying when that happens, but there's the visible curves, the scene silhouette layer. I'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and put one right there because I could see that and it was just bugging the crap out of me. All right. It looks like there's a couple of others. I don't know why it does that sometimes. I thought Rhino 6 actually worked better with the scene silhouette sometimes than Rhino 7. I don't know what they did the algorithm between the two versions, but anyway, you get the idea, right? You know, maybe the grid in here, you know, maybe the visible curves needs to get even less line weight, right? Let's see here. You know, for instance, I think it seems to be, it's nice to see the grid, but sometimes I think it's interfering with actually seeing the color. So maybe I lighten that up a little bit, right? Or change the scale here. You know, maybe, you know, maybe the sun doesn't need to be gray. Maybe I can actually give it a little bit of a fill. Turn it a little oranger, a little more saturated. Turn the opacity down or something, right? Across these, or make it a gradient or something, etc. Right? But you know, again, you know, the idea here is, you know, to start to craft these diagrams, right? And I don't know. I got the stuff, the sun stuff, the solar analysis stuff to work for me. So is anybody trying it at home and they're still having like massive problems with the solar studies? I guess that would be my first question, you know. Go ahead and turn off